This is your Neepawa Town Council Debrief for the April the 5th, 2022 meeting. The debrief will take you through the key issues being discussed by Council and provide a bit more information on what they mean for the town. As we finally head into spring, the town starts to worry less about snow accumulation and a little more about waterways. Thankfully, with the steady melt this spring, there's a very low flood risk this year, but that is not the only consideration. While work on the Park Lake Bridge began not long ago, it's now on hold until the end of June according to provincial regulations on waterways management while we wait out the spring thaw. Manager of Operations Denise Kay also reports on the status of other operational projects, including the completion of seasonal student hiring. Students are expected to begin work on May the 2nd.
Denise, I guess you're up, Manager of Operations.
Thank you. So I was away last meeting. I was actually out of the province attending a conference on behalf of the Manitoba Association of Water and Wastewater Operators. So I attended the Alberta conference. It was an interesting event. So I got to see some new products, a little bit of research for some upcoming projects that we're going to have coming out here. So some new contacts and new businesses worked out good. Since then, we've also concluded all of our seasonal and summer student hiring. So those students will be starting, I believe, May 2nd, should be their start date, the Monday. Yep, May 2nd, so we've got all our positions filled now, and we haven't had any students back out at this point, so we're optimistic they'll all come through. We posted a few, I think Nicole's looking still for some lifeguards, so if anyone's aware of anyone, we'd appreciate some resumes coming on that side of things. We started quoting for some machinery. We had it in the budget to be approved, so I'm hoping to have the next meeting, even when we're doing first reading of the budget, that we might do some pre-ordering of some equipment just because of the time delays. So hopefully I have all those quotes in at that time for the next meeting. Many residents may have noticed street sweeping has begun already. Even though there's still ice in the gutter lines, it's warm enough to start sweeping some of those streets and get a first round done. So we're trying to get as much of that grid off with all that snow and ice we had all winter. Some of them are pretty grimy. Residents may also have quite a bit of garbage and maybe some pet waste laying around. So we've already had Scott, he's starting in on parks this year, so he's already working and getting stuff prepped up for that so that we can start a good cleaning and scouring of the community. I know I've been contacted by some residents asking to do some cleanup, so we've directed them and provided them some cleaning materials as well. On the front of the water reservoir at the water treatment plant, things are moving along really nice actually. So all flow testing has been done, all water retention has been done. We've got some hookups and some scheduled things that are going to be happening for the tie-ins now. And they're just kind of doing some insulating and some proofing on the rest of the work out there. So that project is moving along nice. On the RCMP side, the building's moving along again nice. It kind of may be hard to tell with a big bubble wrapped around it, but they are drywall on the inside. A lot of electrical work's done, plumbing work's done, so it's also moving along very nicely inside there. I don't think that's any other questions. That's the conclusion of my report.
So do you know how many summer students we've hired?
I forget the exact number, but I think we've complemented a few extra this year.
Okay.
So I think we will 2 at Public Works for sure again. The new addition will be 1 at the bike park, and I think we have 2, maybe 3 at the cemetery for ground maintenance, and then the park's probably going to have about 6 to 8 students in that zone. The other one I forgot to mention too is that Park Lake was also in favor of that we've started some of that work there, but I believe Colony is shutting down now, right? For the month of
Yes, there's a restriction period from the end of March right through the end of June that you cannot do any work in the waterways. So we did the best they could. They showed up some of the erosion problems that they found when they started to pull out the old bridge, and they will return when they're able to.
And why did they shut down? Was that for
just spring thaw?
It's
they have to be out of that water.
Department of Fisheries and Oceans restricted from entering the waterway and completing works.
Which is okay. Like I said, they got the pre-prep work done, and now they still have to wait for the materials to arrive. So we're sitting okay on that.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Anybody else have any questions?
In Councillor reports this week, we check in with the Western Manitoba Regional Library, which Neepawa is a part of, along with Carberry, Glenborough, Hartney, and of course Brandon, as well as the Home Assistance for Neepawa and District programs and new equipment at the Neepawa Fire Station. The Rossburn Subdivision Trails Association is coming up on its AGM, which will be held shortly after the Manitoba Trails Association AGM on April the 30th. That meeting is virtual and open to the public. If anyone is interested, please get in contact with the town.
Okay, we are into council reports. Anybody have a council report tonight?
I have one item.
Okay, Council Fox.
The Storefront Improvement Incentive Program received an application for approval later this evening. Neepawa Gladstone Co-op has put in a funding request in the amount of $5,000 to assist in covering the total cost of over $35,000 to refurbish the highway sign located at the old Co-op Agro site, as well as replacing the existing storefront entrance located at the Co-op Home Center on Highway 5. There will be a resolution to approve the application later in tonight's evening meeting. That's everything.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Ledoux.
On March 16th, the library board met for the WMRL, and we finalized our budget for this year. And even with our population increase, we were able to still keep the same population in regards to the amount that we fund. So just to let people know, the amount that we funded for the library is $51,621 for this past year. And as you see, we do get a lot out of that because, just the cost of one possible employee at the library could cost that quite easily. So we get access to all library services, and I just wanted to just remind people that, arts and library in the town of Neepawa is really an important thing, and I think it's a good service and a good bang for our buck that we get. We do pay $11.20 per capita per person. We are going to raise that slightly in the coming year, but we're still well under the provincial average, so it's still a good thing for Neepawa. I also wanted to report back on the Rossburn Subdivision Trail Association. We've had a couple meetings scheduled over the last month, and we're going to be having our AGM on May 5th. It'll be at Riding Mountain National Park, which is a stop just slightly off the trail. It's a sub-trail that's connected to our trail that goes through. And we've been working on grants along the trail to help support making the trail that much better. There's almost 200 kilometers of trail from here to the border. From here to Saskatchewan is our section of trail that I'm referring to. And if anyone's interested, to email the town of Neepawa or myself, and I can hook you up with the link to Trails Manitoba's AGM on April 30th. So there's a virtual AGM meeting if you're interested in participating or joining. The general public is allowed to, and that's something I can forward if anyone is interested in joining on April 30th virtually.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Head.
On March 24th, Neepawa area and Neepawa area district. And anyways, had their AGM, and so out of that, some of the highlights, meals last year, there was 6,223 meals. And so interesting, like it was kind of split 50-50, half for takeouts and half for pickups. And so that number is actually up a little bit from pre-COVID years. Lifeline, they've completed 14 new installs recently. The volunteer income tax program, this program that's offered once again to seniors and vulnerable persons on limited income, has been established. And then they just went over some of the projects over the past year, Hugs for the Holidays, and so not a whole lot new there, but it's nice to see that group continuing, and something like possibly exercise programs starting up again this spring. With the fire department, we received a new air compressor valued at $48,000 from the Office of the Fire Commissioner. So this is in regards to being with mutual aid, and to replace the old system. So the old system was 45 PSI system, and the new one is 60. And it was nice that, thanks to Denis for planning ahead in that, the building was upgraded enough so that the new larger system could be put in there. So that was nice to receive. Also from Fire Chief Eve, he's stated that our fire truck is about 50% built, so we're hoping to see that by this summer. And the last thing I have is a local resident has asked that all the public works and all of our staff be thanked for the great job that they've been doing recently. So it's nice to hear when people are recognizing the work that our people are doing around it.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Okay, that's it for our council reports.
The Chamber of Commerce Fair will be returning this year at the end of May, and the Chamber of Commerce has applied to the town to have it declared a community event for resource purposes. Many people may not realize that events such as these need to apply to the town for these things and other things such as permits to close streets for parades or to run draws or lotteries as well. It is always a good idea to check into these things when making plans.
Okay, we are at the Chamber of Commerce Fair request.
So as we all know, with the restrictions being lessened by the province for COVID, the Chamber is actually looking at hosting their fair this year. So we're writing for you to request permission from the Council of Town Neepawa to declare the 2022 Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce Fair a community event to entitle us to obtain a community events liquor permit for the period of Friday, May 27th through Sunday, May 29th. Upon approval, we'll contact the Fire Chief and the RCMP to arrange their assistance with the permit for the event. And if there's any other requirements, we can let them know. So the resolution, if you're in support of declaring that a community event, will let them be able to get their liquor permit.
Any comments?
Can't wait to see it.
I know, so I was saying, nice to have something live again. Okay.
There were two brand new items at the meeting that could have far-reaching implications for the town. The first is participation in a pilot project that could help to divert tons of food waste from landfills. CAO Colleen Sinchishan details the project, which is projected to begin in September.
Okay, the food cycler that we've talked about before, Colleen, the pilot project.
So I've tried to summarize for the public best I can, short of giving you big handouts, what this is about. So this is called the Food Cycler Food Waste Diversion. It's a municipal pilot program. The average Canadian household produces nearly 475 pounds of food waste per year, with less than 5% currently being recycled in North America. Recently exposed to a pilot program in the community of Ontario targeting food waste reduction, our Economic Development Officer, Marilyn Crew, brought forth the possibility of conducting something similar here in Neepawa. This following on the heels of us actually running a cart-style pickup collection program and our thoughts of doing a brown waste pickup for food scraps. So we thought if we pilot this and see how effective it could be, there is a possibility it would actually reduce expenses and improve our greenhouse gas emissions targets and things like that. So the pilot is conducted by Food Cycle Science and offers a home-based approach to food waste recycling. The technology not only reduces the lengthy time of a traditional composter, but diverts food waste from landfills and has proven to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. Similar to a composter, the Food Cycler appliance, which basically resembles a bread maker in size and scope, that's pretty much what it looks like. You set it on your counter or wherever you want to put it. It is not an offensive looking appliance at all. It's actually quite attractive. And it just takes hours to process these scraps instead of months. The units use less electricity than a desktop computer and offer an odorless, easy-to-use alternative to a traditional composter. Following several discussions we've already had this year, meeting with Food Cycle Science, they agreed that Neepawa would be a great fit for the pilot program, and they proposed a study involving 100 households in Neepawa. The appliance will process 2 liters of food waste per cycle, converting it into a nutrient-rich soil amendment that can be added to lawns, plants, or gardens, and some instances, depending on the volume, you can actually pelletize it for home heating purposes. It is estimated that every food cycler deployed will divert at least 2 tons of food over its expected lifetime of that particular appliance. And based on market rates of $100 per ton of waste, 100 participating households in Neepawa divert 200 tons of food waste, resulting in major savings at the landfill and the diversion of greenhouse gas emissions. As of this date, 33 Canadian municipalities have signed on to participate in the Food Cycle program. The Food Cycle units supplied by Food Cycle Science will be distributed to 100 willing participants, and the actual cost of each unit is $500. However, as part of the pilot program, Food Cycle will contribute $200 toward that cost, or 40%. The town will contribute $125, or 25%, and leaving $175, or 35% of the cost to be paid by a participating household. In return for obtaining that Food Cycle unit at the reduced price of $175, program participants will be required to track weekly waste diversion over a 12-week period. And then at the end of the 12-week period, this data will be reported to the town of Neepawa and a final survey completed. They will be able to keep the Food Cycler after that period of time. We're targeting a trial to begin on or before September 1st, wrapping it up by December 31st of this particular year. So if the council agrees to approve the pilot project, administration will begin the process to set forth the program criteria to solicit community engagement and identify participating households. In addition to the 100 that will be participating in the survey, there is an add-on component to this program. We can do 10 extra locations in the community. We're proposing right now that it could be targeting schools or elderly housing units to see what effect it might take on in locations that weren't necessarily a residential holding specific to a single family. So we're hoping that you'll support this program, as we're quite excited to see what it's going to do for us.
Any questions, any comments? No, I think we've all discussed it. I think it's a great idea. And yeah, you were saying you think by September, right? That's your...
Yeah. We want to wrap it up in this fiscal year. So that's part of the program with Food Cycle Science, is that they can get their data done in 2022.
Do they have a specific criteria for the families that you're looking at for the 100 units?
No. If our EDO was here, she could speak to it. I guess what happened in Ontario, the city actually posted that these units were available, and they said it only took days for the uptake. They were worried that the $175 would deter people from wanting to participate, and that was not the case. All of the units were spoken for very, very quickly. We're not certain what the uptake would be here, so clearly, it's got to be somebody committed to composting already or recycling initiatives. So, wouldn't mind, paying 35% of a $500 unit to have that in their household, and then just for, reporting the data back is a pretty good deal. So.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move forward with that resolution. Moved by Councilor Costinger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hendrick. Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Neepawa enter an agreement with Food Cycle Science Corporation to conduct a Food Cycle food waste diversion pilot project. Be it further resolved that the cost of the Food Cycle units be cost shared between Food Cycle Science 40%, the Town of Neepawa 25%, and 100 participating household residents 35%. Be it resolved that 10 additional units be obtained on a cost share basis between Food Cycle Science 65%, the Town of Neepawa 25%, and 10 targeted community locations 10% to determine the potential waste diversion in locations such as schools, elderly housing units, etc. etc. All in favor? Carried.
While most people have noticed and discussed the increasing amounts of traffic on Highway 16, and the town has previously applied to the province to have the speed limit reduced along a stretch of the road, the Citizens on Patrol program has conducted a few informal counts of the actual numbers of vehicles traveling through over various 2-hour periods at different times of day. And not to go all clickbait on you, but I think the results might be surprising. CAO Sanchishan also reports that they have had a recent conversation with the Minister of Transportation about the same issue. And while nothing has been promised, she felt the conversation was productive and the town's concerns are being taken seriously.
I'd like to bring forward, as you know, I'm also a member of the Citizens on Patrol in Neepawa. And we all know that we have a problem with our traffic on the highway, and especially coming into town, and it's becoming dangerous. And a lot of the members of the Citizens on Patrol, in order to help support the community, after we've been trying to apply to the province in order to get a speed reduction, they took it upon themselves to set up a traffic study of their own. So what they did is they sat on the corner of Highway 16 East and Road 86 West. So that's where the former Brahmas is.
Okay.
And they sat there for a 2-hour period on March 15th. And what they found was an incredible amount of vehicles. It was between the hours of 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And in just 2 hours, there was a total of 1,092 vehicles that passed either way, either direction. And on March 17th, they sat there again at the same, actually this time they were at Highway 16 East and Broadway. And they counted the traffic again. And they even surpassed that number at 1,245 vehicles. In these vehicles, it also included approximately 10% of them were semis. So it's not just regular vehicles. And of course, some of it had to do with the traffic from High Life, the plant itself, especially during those hours. So they decided to do a couple more days with different hours. So they set up again on Broadway and Highway 16. And this time they did it early in the morning at different hours throughout the day. And they had an average of 550. So again, obviously with the changeover at the plant, you're going to see an increased flow of traffic. But I think this is something that we could possibly include in our future applications in order to help reduce the speed. And it could also substantiate that we do have a high number of traffic at certain points throughout the day, which needs to be considered. So I just wanted to share that with council and bring forward on behalf of Citizens on Patrol. And I will email a copy of our summary to everyone here today to share. Pretty impressive, and I'll give the original data sheets to you also, Colleen.
They're good for Citizens on Patrol. Yeah, those are big numbers there.
I'll maybe just add to that, we were fortunate to have Minister Joel Nuke here, the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, to meet with us last Friday in regards to the speed zone application we put forth in 2020, being the second application we sent forward. With the elimination of the Highway Traffic Board a year or more ago, the minister is actually in charge of any reductions that would occur to the speed limits. And he actually came out here, which was nice to have a good visual of what's going on and talk to us about it and talk to us about our previous applications. So he didn't indicate one way or the other, but I think it was a very favorable for those that were able to join for that meeting. It was a favorable meeting and he was taking it quite seriously. So.
Okay.
Also covered were a pair of zoning bylaws, a grant to the co-op through the Storefront Improvement Program, and an update on the RCMP retroactive pay situation. You can view end-to-end coverage of the Town Council meeting elsewhere in the NACTV schedule, including immediately following this. We welcome your feedback on the program, and if you have any questions or items that you'd like to see clarified or discussed, you can reach us at 204-476-2639 or by email at nactvnews@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.